Hi everyone, my name is Diva and I am here with my wonderful friends from around the world. Say hello everyone.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
And we've been having lots of conversations about this topic called X-Men for a while now, in preparation for some very exciting things that are coming up this year. But we just have so much fun every time that we talk about X-Men, and we also discover so many new things about each other and about what the X-Men are, some of the capacities and some of the funnier things that have shown up in our lives because of it. So we thought we would come and have one of these questions online in video format so you guys could all join in as well. So I am here with the lovely Cassie. Hello. And with Brett and Georgia. Hello.
Hey,
And
that's
Jenny
us.
and
Hello.
Karina and Cara. We are all over the world at the moment. So I just wanted to give you all a quick rundown of what X-Men is. You've probably heard of the X-Men films or the comics, and they're basically a group of amazing superheroes that have these superpowers, but at the same time they always feel like they don't fit into society or the world or their families or their group of friends. They're always a little bit weird, and so they always have this kind of like conflictual thing going on trying to fit in. Now access consciousness, as you all may know or may not know, is a set of amazing tools and processes and questions, and it's kind of just like a way of living. It's a lifestyle really that allows you to create anything that you desire, and it just kind of like empowers you and supercharges everything that you're doing. And part of the access classes is the X-Men body of work, and that really looks at everything that's been labeled as a wrongness or a disability and how it's actually a huge capacity. So whether you are somebody or know somebody who's been labeled with OCD, ADD, ADHD, autism, even bipolar and schizophrenia, to just being somebody who has a really creative mind or somebody who has never felt like they fit in, this work may apply to you. So that's my brief intro. I won't go into it too much, but I just wanted to chat with my friends today and see what are some of the things that have come up for you guys with regards to X-Men, and just what does that look like in everyday life?
Well, I loved when you were talking about the movies X-Men and how they don't actually fit into society, but they have all these weird and wild and wacky capacities. And like, that's one of the things I noticed about those movies and the characters in them is that every single one of them like thinks they're messed up in some way. And like how much of that is like us who are the creative people, the ones who function out of the box. Like we all think we're wrong somehow, some way, like that there's something like fundamentally wrong with us.
Well, and especially growing up too. Like, I mean, for me, I never fit into anything. I don't know if that happened to the rest of you, but it was constantly like looking like, how come I don't fit in here? How come I don't fit in here? And then making myself wrong for it. Whereas now, after using access tools and being able to see things in a different perspective, I can actually look at it and go like, oh, so I'm not wrong. I actually don't fit in anywhere, but I'm not wrong. That's one of the big pieces for me.
I know for me, one of the things that knowing the X-Men tools in particular has created a lot of ease is the thing I always noticed was I communicate a lot differently, and I always would get people not quite getting what I was saying, and instead of looking at that it was just a different way that I communicate or I deliver information differently, then I always made myself wrong. Like I couldn't talk, or I couldn't, express myself properly or describe things properly. And also one of the things with X-Men, you're so aware of other people's kind of points of view, and that sometimes I would literally not talk. Like I've gone through lots of periods of time where I just didn't talk very much because I was so aware of other people's universes, I just never even knew where to start. And so then when I grew up and started talking, I thought it made sense, but obviously I didn't make sense to them. And I also do that, like, I'll write, I'm like, oh, it's beautiful, it's wonderful, and people are like, I don't have a what you're talking about. I'm like, what do you mean? It's so clear. So, you know, I have made myself really wrong for that. And I've had other people in my life make me wrong for that. Like, I definitely, one of the things I think that can happen with kids and with adults, and possibly both for you, is that for me, when I would be weird like that, because I didn't really know how to be in the world, I would definitely get bullied because of it. So there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of you making yourself wrong, but then also other people can pick up on that and then take advantage of it too. So having that awareness that it's just a different way of being, and not, you know, not wrong, is so helpful even as an adult at this point. So
yeah, I did something similar, Cara. Like when I was younger, I didn't speak till I was nearly 4, and I was told I was slow, I was stupid, I was never diagnosed as being on the spectrum, but totally in that capacity. And so when I began in school to just look at different things, and I was always so far ahead, and everybody was playing catch up, and I thought that's what slow means, is to be there. So I totally just didn't have a clue what this reality was trying to tell me, and I was like, wow, okay, that's what slow means.
Which wouldn't create any sort of confusion as you grew up going.
And that was 4, 5, 6, 7, and I grew up like that. I was so aware of other people's emotions. Like, I knew how sad they were or how happy they were, and I'd be like, how are you today? But they were so locked off, they wouldn't even look at their emotions, and it's just it's crazy. So all of my childhood and teenagers, I was all over the place, didn't have a clue who I was and what was going on. And I trained to be a psychotherapist because I thought that'll give me the answer. Which is hysterical, because then I just get labelled, oh, you did this test, then you're borderline personality disorder. You did this test and you came out as this. But you can still teach psychotherapy and be a psychotherapist, but you're in this label, in this box. And I'm like, this is crazy. Yeah. And it was Access. It really just opened up all my awareness of a whole load of different things, and really allowed me to see that none of the stuff that I was aware of was mine. That tool Dean talks about, who does it belong to, is just like, wow, how amazing is that? Yeah. And that was the beginning, and it's totally changing all the time. I love it. I love it. So,
you know what's interesting? Like, you've both mentioned, like, you know, X-Men are so aware, and it's, you know, you're just aware of everyone's feelings and emotions. Does anyone want to go into what that is a little bit more for the people who have no idea what we're talking about? Because if you've done some Access, then you're already there. But otherwise, like, I never had any clue that that's what was going on. I was just like, I am completely messed up. I apparently get really nervous in different situations. I am constantly thinking and worrying, you know.
Well, and the other side of that is something that Jenny was mentioning too, where you're aware of all these things, and then you ask someone because you're aware of how they're feeling and what's going on and all this stuff, and then they're like, no, because they shut it down and they don't want to talk about it. And then you're like, well, that's confusing, because where is this coming from? Like, and then you make yourself wrong. They've just made yourself wrong. And then you're SOL, because you have no idea what's going on now, because you're not getting confirmation of that at all.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't happen in my world. I don't know about anybody else.
The emotional stuff was really interesting, because I was labelled as emotional liable, which meant that I would go high, high and low, low. But no one even looked at that to see if that was on any part of the spectrum. Like, autism wasn't talked about, and it's like, what is the autistic spectrum? And when I've read about it and studied about it, it's like vast, you know, and in actual fact, it's like, can everyone really fit into that spectrum in some level? And what does that mean? And does it really matter?
Yeah.
So the emotional thing, was just really interesting for me. And I wonder if anyone else has got any information on that too.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I've got something. So my mom was a psychologist when I was growing up. So the idea, like I heard her talking about ADHD and the medications that would often follow, and ADD and what the difference were. Like, I think I was a kid that was like almost overeducated about those things, but because I was really good at kind of hiding that I could fit in really well, even though I'm not sure if I was really fooling anybody except for myself. I never considered that I was part of that. So I would go to access classes and be like, well, that's really great that other people have, areas where they're autistic or areas where they're OCD. And then there was a moment where I was cleaning like voraciously my house on a Saturday in spring. And I don't really like to clean that much. It's not like really like mine. So I asked the access question of who does this belong to? And I got this information of like, whoa, I'm aware of like thousands of people right now who have felt guilty all week for not tidying up after coming home from work. I actually work from home, so I don't even come home. But I was aware of these like feelings of guilt, like, well, how come I blah, blah, blah. And then I realized like, oh my gosh, that's actually a characteristic of being OCD. But I never wanted a label. I never wanted to fit in any box at all. But that's an example of like picking up on people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Sometimes I use them to my advantage to get a little like extra boost in tidying up the house, like having a cup of coffee before you clean or something. So that's like a way you can actually use it to your advantage. But yeah, like it's strange how there are these fixed labels where you think, maybe you're familiar with the extreme versions of ADHD, OCD, like people who wash their hands a certain number of times before they leave their house or they don't feel comfortable leaving. But there are also these kind of like softer, more subtle and more hideable versions of these actually really cool capacities that don't get talked about as much until people like Diva and Gary doing this class are actually like opening up this information to like, hey, how can we have an easier life when we're like aware of so many people?
Yeah. You know what's so funny? I was having a conversation the other day with an old friend from university, not because she's old, but because I've known her for a long time. I just look a lot younger than she does. And she was like, she was just kind of laughing and joking at me because, I mean, I did not really enjoy university at all. Like I didn't go. Like one time I got the report at the end of the year and I'd attended 4% of the year. I don't know how you can get 4%. But anyway, and she was laughing at me because she was like, I don't know how you managed to like pull everything together and just in the end like get such good grades. And she was kind of laughing at me, but she was also laughing because she remembers me, like I would go to the university building but just to have coffee with her and other friends and hang out. I just wouldn't go to the classes. And so I remember like actively like running away from the lecturers when I would hear them coming. And she'd be like, what's going on? I'd be like, the lecturer, she's downstairs, she's about to come up. And I could literally hear her voice. And then she would show up maybe like a minute or two later, and my friend Rosie was laughing and like freaked out. And she was laughing at me so much for that. But that kind of, I mean, obviously I'm saying it in like a jokey way and it's funny, and that, was obviously kind of like enhanced hearing at that stage or whatever you want to call it. But so many times that can also show up as this extreme sensitivity to what is going on around you, whether it's a physical sensitivity because the lights are too bright or sounds are too bright, which I definitely get a lot, or whether it's a sensitivity to like what people are thinking and feeling around you. Like if something feels sad to you, I can assure you that to somebody that's on the spectrum or an X-Men, that it's going to be that exponentialized by 1,000. And that is what we're talking about when we're saying this stuff, because in this world that we live in, that is labeled as you have this sensitivity. We create these labels as though that's going to give us then the answer of how to handle this thing, or what to avoid so that you have more ease, rather than looking at a more creative way of actually going beyond that and looking to see what might be underneath that. And so, that to me has been huge, because to realize that all comes under this one big concept of awareness, which is that you can have awareness from multiple different areas, whether it's just a gut feeling, whether it's an instinct that you have about a person, whether it comes across as a, you know, a feeling of visceral thing, or something else. So yeah, just to be able
And
to feel that awareness and not have to like label it a million different ways has made it safe.
And I love too how you use that to your advantage. Like, I mean, I got amazing grades in school. Most of my college books I didn't crack open, like they were brand new. I bought them, I carried them around, but I literally never opened them, never did my homework. And same in high school, but you know, I'd show up to class and I would know the material, or I would like listen in class kind of thing while I was doodling or whatever. And I would know the material and take the test and do really well. And I use that unknowingly. I use that to my advantage, because even in my grade 12, I think I had like, you know, 5 teachers where if I didn't show up for class, it was okay. So I used all of that, you know, like how I worked and how I would just have information or be able to pull information out of anywhere or anybody's head. I used it to my advantage so that I could just show up and have that without having to actually sit through the boring lectures and blah, 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 and be in class when it wasn't required. And so I'd have teachers who would just mark me there because they knew I was okay, and I'd go play in the gym or whatever. So, you know, it really is like, how can you use this stuff to your advantage?
Well, and the piece that I just want to add in there quickly too, sorry, Brett, I know you want to say something, and then I want to ask Cassie something.
I'm excited.
But this isn't like a propaganda for like flunk school, don't do work, and we're super cool because like we still get it done anyway at the last minute, you know, like coffee at 3 a.m., reading your books is the way to go. No, that's not what it is. It's like, and I know that Carlina, this is probably true for her too, but for me, I judged myself as a completely messed up person that entire time because I couldn't bring myself to stay awake in a class. I couldn't bring myself to try and even remember what everybody else was remembering in the class. Like the teacher spoke and literally like she could ask me 3 seconds later what she'd said and I would have no idea. So my way of receiving information was so different, which resulted in me not going, whether that's a good or a bad thing. Who knows? It worked for me at the time. But it's actually about getting out of the judgment of yourself so that you have a different possibility. Because imagine if I would still have that judgment about how I don't like studying, I don't like information, I don't like learning. None of that's true. Like, and you guys all know that about me and about all of us on here. You know, we are like voracious readers of anything that is like interesting and that expands our lives, whether that's something educational or something that's like self-development, whatever that is. So this really is actually about getting out of the judgments that are keeping you stuck, whether it's in your life or with regard to somebody else, because these are the same labels we put on those kids. You know, the kids that can't concentrate with too much ease or that get distracted so easily. You know, we're so quick to try and define that and give that a label as though that's going to help, rather than looking at what's actually going on. Like, okay, so how do you receive information that's different? When this person says this, what are you hearing or what are you seeing in your mind? You know, because it's very, very different. So I just wanted to put that out there. We're not saying flunk school.
Right. And just for the record, just for the record, it was only grade 12 that I started missing classes. All the other ones I showed up. The thing is, I would they would start talking and I would get all the information in the first 5 minutes and then be bored for the rest of the class. Yeah. But all the way through grade 11, I swear I showed up for all my classes.
Yeah. And that's where also like the different way of being with that is, you know, it can either show up as like, wow, you know, an extreme capacity and you're super smart, or it can show up as this terrible thing which makes you dumber than everyone. Like everybody at university swore, like you would have asked anyone, they would have told you that I was super dumb because I never knew what book we were. I didn't know. In fact, I didn't even have half the books. I didn't even know where I was. But I showed up and I got amazing grades. So it was only that last moment that made them go, oh, maybe she's not that dumb. But the whole time before, they'd already been labeling me as something. Obviously based on what they could see and based on what a normal conclusion would be. So this is truly, all of this work is about getting out of those conclusions about you or anyone else, so that you can have like a wider picture as to what's actually going on and truly create actual change from that. So yeah, I'm going to stop talking now. Brett, you go.
Yeah, in school, people would actually call me the brain. That was my nickname because I could just know like every answer to every question. Like I was that kid. Like every time, like raising like anybody else, like anybody else, like, please come on.
Is that your X-Men name then, Brett?
Yes, the brain.
The brain.
Superpower.
I like it.
But even
Well,
with
and I
all
just
that-
sorry, I just
Oh,
heard Georgia refer to you too as the Brentonian.
the Encyclopedia
Oh.
Britannica.
That's it. That's it. Which I thought was so awesome.
What's a Brentonian?
I don't know. I just made it up. I think a compilation of what you said and what's in my head.
I love it. But yes, with all of that capacity to pull information and have all this stuff, I had no idea like how to create things in this reality. Like I didn't know how to start a business. I didn't know how to call somebody and form a team and make stuff happen and all that stuff. And I would literally spend most of my time like in these different worlds of like books or movies or video games. I spent a lot of time in video games. Like that was my creative world because I didn't know how to deal with all of these thoughts, feelings, and emotions that people have. There aren't really any thoughts, feelings, or emotions in a video game. So that was a great place for me to go. And I know a lot of parents have kids who are always on their
Devices,
iPads, their devices, their games playing. And with these tools, the X-Men tools specifically, I actually now have that capacity to look at the things around me and actually play life and the world like a video game.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And all these thoughts, feelings, and emotions now are making sense to me. I get what they are. And it's not just a barrage of intense energies that I didn't know how to deal with and I felt I had to avoid. I actually get to create my life and my world. It's like God mode in a video game.
I love that, Brett. That's so cool. That's really awesome. Cassie, what's your experience as well? Because I know you've got some X-Men kids of your own.
I do. I actually had a story to relate when you guys were talking about the thoughts, feelings, and emotions. I was at like a kids play center, like bouncy castles, like craziness, and we're having like the best time. And my 6-year-old, he was just like smiling, and then his face like went into this like angry, like nasty look, and I'm like, oh, I'm like, what's that? And I didn't want to even like tell. I'm like, what is that? And he's like, I don't know. And then I'm like, okay. And so we just used one of like the like simple tools of access, which is like, is that yours? We played with that, and we had to do it like 3 times. And then he's just happy and light and played. Oh, sorry. And it was funny because as I'm looking at him and I'm going, what's this? My eyes focused on the kid right behind him that has the same like look on his face. And I'm like, oh, it's that kid, like grumpiness.
And how many like
and then we're
have
in
you
the
guys
car
ever?
and we're driving home. Go ahead.
I think there's just a lag. Keep going. Keep going.
Driving home, and he just kind of like he will kind of like do this, like when he's wondering, he kind of looks up, and then he's like, hey, do you know why I took like that anger away from that little boy? And I was like, because I didn't talk about the little boy. I didn't say anything to him. I was like, to feel like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like my kid is so kind and so cool and so willing to be aware and so willing to contribute to like everyone around him. And the tools, what I've really noticed is just to create the ease for him to be in this world with these like huge amounts of awareness. Yeah. And it just like creates a space for his body. And like, and I actually wonder sometimes, I'm like, if like, what would his life be like without the tools? Huh. And like what I did, like for me personally, I was a really good student at how do I bastardize myself in a way where I can be presentable, like at the world. And but like, and I'm just so grateful that he doesn't really have to do that, like because of this work. So
absolutely. Well, and I think that's what's going on for so many people as well. It's like whether somebody's been labeled or not, or whether something is going on and somebody is looking to, you know, find out what that is and maybe get labeled or whatever that is. It's not something that you can see. Like, you know, it's something that's so internal that, I mean, I grew up in an environment where like mental health issues were around me every day. And sometimes people would be like, what, that person? You would never know. They look so normal. And I'm like, what does that mean? You know, because you never have any idea what's going on inside someone's head. Like I recently wrote this blog where I was like, I really did my best to hide how weird I was in my head. And it's an easy thing to hide, but then it becomes not easy for yourself. And that's where these tools are like so awesome, so that you don't have to hide that from you or from anyone. It doesn't mean that you become this uncontrollable, like crazy person. It's not about that. It's about actually having ease with everything that you are and with the world around you. So yeah.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, I've actually noticed the opposite with my kids. It's like,
go on.
just like
Oh, you're amazing.
You know, out of control, like crying, like all the intensity. They're just like actually face and ease. Sorry, Georgia, go.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, I think we're getting about over, like, with our time that we are getting together today, but Brett and I live in Houston, and we just wanted to invite you to this incredible X-Men class that Diva Diaz and who we have on with us and Gary Douglas are going to be doing. It's in a lineup of incredible classes. We actually have an advanced body class, and then with Gary, and then an SE for Bodies class with Glenna, and then this beautiful grand finale of the X-Men, Creating the Real Future. So if you have any curiosity about X-Men, maybe watch the movie about Temple Grandin, because that was a great start for me.
Oh my God.
It was awesome.
Amazing.
It's called
Temple Grandin. Way to help us all, Georgia.
Kind of biographical.
But yeah, that was a fantastic movie. Yeah.
And,
Oh my
and
gosh.
feel free to contact us too if you're watching and you have any questions about the class or what we might go into, if you're wondering even something that's going on in your life or with your kids or anything. If you're wondering like, hey, does this apply? Like, is this something that might be able to be covered in class? Just contact any of us. We're all really excited for the change that's possible in this class, and we can't wait till April.
And what if they don't want to come to Houston?
The class is going to be live streamed. So we have an entire video team broadcasting it live. It's actually going to be available in multiple languages too. So if you speak another language and somehow you're seeing this, just let us know. We'll try to make sure that we got your language there, because we'd actually like these tools to be in the hands of everybody who's ready to have more ease with their capacities that they thought were wrong.
Cool. I love it. Well, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. That was awesome. That was so much fun.